The sun was barely up when Adaeze felt the heat of the early morning on her skin. Sitting by the broken window of their single-room apartment in Adaeze, she ran her fingers slowly across her thin cane, the only guide she had since her world turned black. It had been over a year since her passing out parade at the NYSC camp, a year since the headache that led to the fever that led to the darkness. The doctors had called it an optic nerve infection. Whatever it was, it stole her sight, her dreams, and the life she once knew. Now, every day felt like a punishment. Not because of the blindness alone, but because of the people she lived with, her mother, Mama Nkechi, and her teenage sister, Ego. They weren't always cruel, but something changed when Adaeze returned home broken. Mama Nkechi's grief morphed into bitterness, and Ego, once the little girl who adored her, now mocked her at every chance. "You useless girl," Mama Nkechi often hissed. "Go and sit by the road and beg. You think we'll feed you for free?" This morning, the demand came again. "If you no go sit for that junction today, we no go chop," her mother shouted. Adaeze turned her face away, her lips trembling. "I can't today, Mama. The sun is too hot, my skin burns," she whispered. In response, Ego flung a metal spoon at her, which hit her shoulder with a sharp thud. "Lazy thing," Ego snapped. Adaeze hugged herself tightly, fighting back tears that threatened to fall. In the silence that followed the shouting, she wished, just for a second, that someone, anyone, could see her pain. Little did she know, someone already had. Adaeze dragged her cane slowly along the edge of the narrow street, the familiar voices of Okada riders and hawkers guiding her steps. Her feet felt heavy, her soul even heavier. With each click of the cane, she tried to drown out the memory of her mother's threats. Children ran past her, their laughter echoing with the freedom she longed for. She reached her usual spot by the corner of the busy junction, just beside the Akora woman who sometimes gave her water when the sun got too harsh. She sat down, placing a small bowl in front of her, and began to chant the familiar words, "Good morning, kind people. Please help a blind girl." Her voice was barely above a whisper, shaky but sweet, drawing occasional pity. Coins clinked into the bowl every now and then, but most people just walked past, indifferent. That morning, a soft voice responded, different from the rest. "Why are you here alone?" it asked. Startled, she turned her head slightly. I have to be here," she said. "I don't have a choice." The voice was male, calm, and steady. "There's always a choice," he said gently before walking away. Adaeze heard his footsteps fade into the distance, but his words lingered. For the first time in a long while, someone had spoken to her like a human being, not a burden. She didn't know his name, but she felt something shift inside her, a whisper of hope. When Adaeze returned home that evening, her bowl clutched to her chest with barely 200 naira inside, her mother was waiting by the door like a gatekeeper of gloom. "Nonna, you dey come back. Where the money?" Mama Nkechi snatched the bowl from her hands, shaking it in disappointment. "This one no even reach Gary money." "I'm sorry, Mama. People were not giving much today," Adaeze said, her head bowed. "You don't know how to beg well, that's your problem," Ego sneered from the corner, where she was painting her nails with the confidence of a girl who believed beauty would save her from poverty. "Even blind people they make more money than you." Adaeze sighed and reached for the wall to find her way to her mat, but Mama Nkechi wasn't done. "You won't eat tonight. Start small, maybe that will teach you how to bring better money tomorrow." Silence wrapped itself around her like a cold blanket as she laid on her thin mat. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. She had grown used to hunger, to loneliness, to being seen as nothing more than a tool. But as she closed her eyes, the kind voice from the junction returned to her thoughts. That voice reminded her she was still human. 2 days later, a soft drizzle began while Adaeze sat at her usual begging spot. Most people hurried past with umbrellas or plastic bags over their heads. She stayed, her clothes soaking, lips trembling. The Akora woman had packed up and left early, leaving her completely alone. Suddenly, someone took her hand, warm, firm, and gentle. "You'll catch a cold out here," the same voice from before said. Why do you keep talking to me?" she asked, unable to hide the emotion in her voice. Because I see you, he replied. He led her out of the rain, into a nearby shop's shaded corridor. What's your name? Adaeze, she replied, clutching her wet wrapper. I'm Dr. Adrian. She turned her face toward him. Doctor, she echoed, almost disbelieving. Yes. I've seen you here a few times. I wanted to ask, what happened to your eyes? She hesitated. I wasn't born blind. It happened after NYSC. The sickness came suddenly, everything disappeared. Dr. Adrian was quiet for a moment. You need medical help. Real help. Would you let me examine you sometime? Adaeze laughed bitterly. I don't have money. I didn't ask for money, he said gently. For the first time in a long while, someone offered her something, without expecting anything in return. When Adaeze mentioned the doctor to her mother that night, Mama Nkechi flared up instantly. Doctor. You think doctors work for free? Not trap be that. But Mama, he didn't ask for money. Shut up. I don't want you talking to strangers. Stay away from that man before you go land this family into trouble. Ego nodded with a knowing smirk. Maybe he's looking for a blind girl to use for rituals. The thought chilled Adaeze, but something in Dr. Adrian's voice didn't match the picture her family painted. He didn't feel like a threat. Still, Mama Nkechi's words echoed in her mind that night, reminding her of how many times life had betrayed her. Yet deep within, a tiny spark of hope refused to die. The next day, Adaeze told her mother she wasn't feeling well enough to beg. Mama Nkechi grumbled but didn't argue too much, perhaps she thought Adaeze would earn more out of guilt the next day. Instead of going to the junction, Adaeze waited until she was sure they were gone, then made her way carefully to the clinic address Dr. Adrian had scribbled in her palm with a blunt pencil. At the clinic, she was led gently to a seat. Moments later, Dr. Adrian's voice welcomed her like a balm to her bruised soul. You came, he said, surprised but pleased. I'm not sure why, she admitted. But I had to try. He led her into an examination room. For the first time in over a year, someone touched her gently, not to hurt or command, but to help. After a thorough check, he finally spoke, his voice tinged with hope. Adaeze, there might be a way to restore your sight. Her heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Adaeze asked, gripping the armrest tightly. There's damage, yes, Dr. Adrian explained, but not irreversible. You need a surgery, delicate and precise, but if it works, you might be able to see again. Her mind reeled. Sight. Could she dare dream? But I can't pay for that, she said, her voice dropping. I'm willing to sponsor it, he said calmly. I've helped others before. I believe in second chances. Tears welled up in her eyes, though they never fell. Why would you do this for me? He paused before answering. Because I know what it means to lose everything, and still hope. Back home, Ego noticed the shift in Adaeze's mood. She was quieter, almost hopeful, something she hadn't seen in a while. Where you go yesterday? She asked sharply. I just walked around, Adaeze lied. Ego narrowed her eyes. You did plan something? No, Adaeze replied, adjusting her mat quickly. But Ego wasn't convinced. Later that night, she sneaked through Adaeze's things and found the paper with the address Dr. Adrian had written. The name, Dr. Adrian, etched in rough writing confirmed her suspicion. She stormed to their mother. Mama. She don't go clinic with one doctor like that. Mama Nkechi's eyes blazed. So she don't dey sneak around now? We go show her. The next morning was hell. Mama Nkechi slapped Adaeze so hard her lip bled. So no doctor you dey follow now. You want carry bell for man wey you no see? Adaeze cried. It's not like that. He only wants to help me see again. I don't care. That blindness dey help this family chop. If you see, how we go survive? Ego chimed in, blindness be your hustle. You want spoil am? Those words cut deeper than any slap. They didn't care about her healing. Her blindness was their income. her suffering, their survival. And in that moment, Adaeze realized, she was nothing more than a beggar to them. That night, Adaeze stayed awake long after Mama Nkechi and Ego had fallen asleep. Her heart pounded with fear, but also with resolve. She could no longer survive under their rule. Not if she wanted to live, truly live. Dr. Adrian had given her a number. She dialed it carefully on the old Nokia phone she'd hidden. "I need help," she whispered when he answered. "Can I come now?" "Yes," he replied without hesitation. "I'll be waiting." Quietly, Adaeze gathered her things, just a wrapper and her cane, and slipped out the door, one silent step at a time. She didn't know what the future held. But for the first time, she was choosing it for herself. The moon was high, casting faint silver streaks on the dirt road as Adaeze quietly crept away from the house. Her cane tapped softly against the ground, barely audible beneath her cautious breath. Every step she took was filled with the fear of being caught and the hope of freedom. Dr. Adrian's voice echoed in her heart, telling her she deserved more. She imagined the gates of his clinic welcoming her into a better life. But what Adaeze didn't know was that her mother had heard her whisper into the phone. Mama Nkechi had pretended to sleep, her eyes barely closed, ears tuned to every movement. As Adaeze reached the last corner of the street, a heavy hand gripped her arm from behind. "Where you dey go, Adaeze?" Mama Nkechi's voice was cold. Adaeze gasped, frozen in place. "Mama, please. I just want to." A hard slap silenced her. "You won't disgrace me. After all we suffer, you won't go follow man Dr. Abi. You dey craze." Before she could react, Mama Nkechi dragged her back, the cane falling from Adaeze's hands. She stumbled and cried out, but no one in the neighborhood stirred. They were used to her screams. Back inside, Mama Nkechi locked the door and shoved Adaeze against the wall. "So you don't grow wings, Abi," she barked. "No be you I born." Adaeze sobbed. "He wanted to help me. I just wanted to see again." "You want see so you go abandon us. We go chop sand. This blindness they feed us. You want carry am comot." Ego sat on the edge of the bed, smirking. "You don't see am now? Next time you go ask permission. Una go kill me one day," Adaeze whispered bitterly. "No," Mama Nkechi hissed, "we go keep you exactly how God want make you. Blind and useful." The words pierced through her like a blade. All Adaeze's dreams shattered in that single moment. She wasn't their daughter anymore, she was their tool. For 3 days, Mama Nkechi refused to let Adaeze leave the house. She was locked inside, her cane hidden, and any attempt to escape was met with beatings. Her phone had been seized, and Ego took pleasure in mocking her. "Your doctor no come find you. Or be him no serious." But Dr. Adrian had come. He waited at the clinic. Then he visited the junction. Then the street. But there was no sign of Adaeze. He even asked the Akara woman, who told him she hadn't seen her in days. Inside the room, Adaeze lay on the floor, bruised and hungry. She had stopped crying. Hope was becoming poison. And her heart was slowly going numb. On the 4th day, just before dusk, a knock echoed on their door. Mama Nkechi froze, then asked sharply, "Who be that?" "Good evening," came a familiar voice. "I'm looking for Adaeze." "I'm Dr. Adrian." Adaeze's heart jumped. He came. Mama Nkechi opened the door slightly, keeping the chain locked. "No Adaeze here. You get wrong address. I know she lives here. She called me. I talk say she no dey." Mama Nkechi shouted and slammed the door. From inside, Adaeze screamed, "Adrian. I'm here." But it was muffled. Dr. Adrian's fist banged the door, but there was no answer. He left, but he wasn't giving up. That night, Adaeze cried silently, praying for a way out. Unknown to her, Dr. Adrian returned the next morning with someone, a social worker and a police officer. When they reached the door, Mama Nkechi pretended calm, but the officer was firm. "We received a report of abuse. Where is your daughter?" "No daughter here like that," Mama Nkechi lied, but Ego's face betrayed something. The officer looked at the social worker, then back at the door. "We will return?" Inside, Adaeze had no idea the outside world was starting to fight for her. That night, Ego exploded. "Mama, we dey do too much. We no go fit lock her forever." Mama Nkechi hissed. "If she go, who go feed us?" Ego crossed her arms. "Make we train me now. I fit model." "You? Model? With what?" "We need Adaeze. She's our ATM." That night, Ego stared at Adaeze sleeping and something darker stirred in her heart. She wasn't just jealous anymore, she hated her sister for being the center of attention. Hidden under the mat, Adaeze found a small note the next morning, slipped in through the crack in the wall. "I haven't given up. I'm coming back for you. Don't lose hope. Dr. Adrian." Her fingers trembled over the paper but can't read. He hadn't forgotten her. Later that day, Mama Nkechi returned from the market in a furious mood. "Police don't come again, oh. Them they find you. You see wetin you cause." She beat Adaeze again, then poured water on her mat. "No sleep for you today. Maybe suffer go clear your eye." But Adaeze didn't feel the pain the same way anymore. Her mind was far away, with the letter, with Dr. Adrian. With freedom. She started to plan again. That night, Ego made a choice. She took Dr. Adrian's number from the old phone and called him. "Hello," he said. "She dey here," Ego whispered. "But you go give me money if I tell you how to get her out." Dr. Adrian paused. "You want to sell your sister?" "She no be my sister again," Ego replied coldly. "She dey useless already." "But you want am? I fit help you." "Tell me what you want," he said carefully. Ego smiled. The game had changed. Ego met Dr. Adrian secretly 2 days later behind the secondary school compound. "She go there alone on Thursday. Mama dey go village for burial. You fit come then." "What about you?" "I go leave gate open," Ego said. "You just bring better money when she don't go." "I want to buy iPhone." Dr. Adrian gave her a warning look. "If you're lying." "I know they lie," Ego smirked. "I won't use her go." As she walked away, Dr. Adrian called someone on his phone. "It's time. Prepare everything. We're getting Adaeze out." Thursday morning came with a quietness that felt unnatural. Mama Nkechi had packed her wrapper and yam for her cousin's burial in the village. Before leaving, she warned Ego, "Close the gate well. No walker for anybody. And you," she turned to Adaeze, "no try any nonsense. If I hear say you come out this house." Adaeze nodded silently, masking the growing thrum of hope beating in her chest. Once her mother was gone, the atmosphere shifted. She could feel it in her skin, the air was lighter, possibility hovering just out of reach. Ego moved about the house with unusual silence. She didn't insult or mock. In fact, she didn't say a word. But her silence was heavy. Adaeze sat, waiting, her fingers clutching the small letter from Dr. Adrian hidden in her wrapper like a lifeline, looking for who to read the letter out for her. She didn't know exactly what was coming, but she felt it, something was about to change. By noon, Ego unlocked the gate and returned to her room, leaving it wide open. Minutes passed. Then Adaeze heard it, a car pulling up gently, a door closing. Footsteps. Then a voice. "Adaeze, it's me. Adrian." She rose, breath hitching. "I'm here." He rushed to her side, helping her up. "You're safe now. Let's go." She barely had time to register it as he led her to the car. Ego stood in the doorway, arms folded, watching them go with a strange smile on her lips. Adaeze didn't look back. She didn't want to. For once, she was moving forward. The drive to the clinic felt like traveling through a dream. Adaeze sat in silence, her hands trembling in her lap. The car smelled of leather and mint, a far cry from the damp corners of home. "You're safe now," Dr. Adrian said softly. "Thank you," she whispered, trying not to cry. When they arrived, nurses helped her inside, treating her like someone who mattered. She was given food, clean clothes, and a quiet room with a soft bed. For the first time in over a year, she lay down and felt human. Her freedom had just begun. Over the next 2 days, Adaeze underwent a series of eye tests. Machines buzzed, lights flashed, and doctors murmured in hopeful tones. Dr. Adrian explained everything in simple terms. You suffered optic nerve damage. But the good news is, it's treatable. It won't be perfect, but you may see again. Adaeze's heart fluttered. She hadn't seen anything in so long, she had begun to forget what colors looked like. But the surgery is risky, he added. We'll need your consent. I want it, she said without hesitation. I want to see again. That night, she dreamed of her mother's voice, of Ego's mocking laughter, of her hands being slapped away from cold food. She woke up sweating, her heart racing. Dr. Adrian found her in the corridor. Bad dream. She nodded. Even though I'm here, I still feel trapped inside sometimes. You're healing, he said. Not just your eyes, your soul too. That takes time. Adaeze nodded, letting the tears fall freely. Thank you, for believing I was more than just a blind girl. The night before the surgery, Adaeze couldn't sleep. She sat near the window, even though she couldn't see the view. She imagined it, trees swaying, people walking, life happening. Dr. Adrian sat with her. Are you afraid? Yes, she said. But not of the surgery. I'm afraid of what comes after. What if I see and still feel blind inside? You won't, he assured. Because you've already seen what matters. With your heart. They stayed like that for a long while, silently holding on to hope. The operating room was cold and sterile, filled with the hum of machines and soft voices of nurses preparing. Adaeze lay on the table, heart pounding, trying not to panic. Dr. Adrian stood by her. You're going to be okay. She nodded. Then the anesthesia kicked in, and darkness embraced her once more. Hours passed. When she opened her eyes again, everything was blurry. Shapes and colors swam in a fog. She blinked slowly as tears welled up. I can see light, she whispered. The next morning, her vision began to sharpen. Slowly. Gradually. She could make out the curve of Dr. Adrian's face, the white of his coat, the blue on the nurse's scrubs. Take your time, he said, his voice trembling with emotion. Adaeze lifted her hand and looked at her own fingers for the first time in years. She gasped, overwhelmed. I forgot how brown my skin is. The world looked unfamiliar and yet beautiful. She cried, not from sadness, but from the gift of rediscovery. Back at home, Mom and Kechi returned to an empty house. She asked Ego where Adaeze had gone. She left, Ego shrugged. You couldn't keep her blind forever. Mom and Kechi's anger turned to fear. You let her go. She deserved better, Ego mumbled. Even if I hated her sometimes. Meanwhile, Adaeze sat in her clinic room, now walking slowly without her cane. She wrote a letter, one addressed to her mother and Ego. It simply read, I forgive you. But I'm not coming back. This is my new beginning. 2 weeks later, Adaeze stood in front of a mirror. She stared at the girl looking back at her, older than she remembered, thinner, but still her. Still Adaeze. Dr. Adrian walked in. Ready to go outside. She nodded. They stepped into the sun, and for the first time, she saw the sky. The clouds. The trees. And the people walking past. She turned in awe. I've never seen the world like this before, she whispered. Dr. Adrian smiled. It's been waiting for you. And so had her life. Dr. Adrian watched Adaeze blossom every day. She laughed more, smiled freely, and moved around with newfound grace. But he knew she needed more than recovery, she needed purpose. One morning, he took her out to a quiet plaza. There's something I want to show you. She followed him curiously. They stopped in front of a small, freshly painted building with a banner, Adaeze Touch, natural skincare and spa. Adaeze turned to him, eyes wide. What is this? Your business, he smiled. You told me how you used to mix shea butter and oils for couples during NYSC. I believed in that. She clutched her chest, overwhelmed. You did all this for me. No, he said. I did it with you in mind. Now you get to live, not just survive. Adaeze Spa opened to a modest crowd. With Dr. Adrian's help and guidance from a business consultant, she quickly learned how to manage customers, book appointments, and market her natural products. Her healing hands and soothing voice made clients feel at ease. Soon, word spread that Adaeze Touch wasn't just a business, it was an experience. She even hired 2 young girls from her old neighborhood to help around the shop. They reminded her of herself, full of dreams but without direction. This time, she'd be the one to lift someone else. News of Adaeze's success spread like wildfire. Ego heard about the fancy spa and beautiful signboard through a friend and scoffed. She's lucky, she muttered. But inside, envy and greed burned. Ego visited the spa one morning, dressed in borrowed clothes and false humility. Adaeze was surprised to see her. Sister, Ego said sweetly. I just come greet you. Adaeze gave a cautious smile. You're welcome. Hope you're doing well. Ego glanced around the polished floors, the AC unit humming, and the well-arranged display of oils. You did try, oh. But her real reason for coming hadn't surfaced yet. After Adaeze stepped into her office, Ego made her move, visiting Dr. Adrian at the clinic uninvited. She walked in with a wide smile. Doctor, good afternoon. Dr. Adrian frowned slightly. Ego. What are you doing here? I just say make I greet you. You try for us, she said, sitting without being asked. But I beg. I still need small help. I want to start my own makeup business. Just small money, like 300K. Dr. Adrian shook his head calmly. No, Ego. I helped Adaeze because she wanted to help herself. Not to be used. Ego's face tightened. So you did do favoritism now? Because she fine. He stood up. Please leave, Ego. Her eyes flashed. No worry. This word no end today. When Adaeze heard about Ego's visit, she wasn't surprised. But it still hurt. That night, Ego sent her a text, I dey suffer oh. Just help your sister small. Adaeze typed back, I will always wish you well. But I won't be used anymore. Ego left her unread. It was the first time Adaeze truly chose herself, and she felt stronger for it. Days passed, and Ego didn't show up again. But guilt began to creep in. Adaeze remembered when they were younger, how Ego used to help her cross the road before her sight failed, how they'd share mangoes after school. But then she remembered the hunger, the beatings, and the loneliness. Dr. Adrian found her sitting in the spa's backyard. You're thinking about her. She nodded. It's okay to forgive, he said. But not to repeat what almost destroyed you. Pride and shame wrestled inside her. She considered going to see Adaeze, to beg, or at least claim credit. But even she knew, after everything, she didn't deserve to walk through that spa's doors. Still, her bitterness grew. If she make she by heaven, Mama Nkechi muttered to herself. Nomi Bonham. Adaeze's business caught the attention of a local TV station. They came for an interview, impressed by her story, blindness, survivor, and triumph. On camera, Adaeze spoke with grace. I was once told I was only useful as a beggar. But I learned that pain isn't the end. It's just the beginning of who you become. The episode aired that weekend, and even people from her past began to call with congratulations. She didn't respond to most of them. Her past didn't deserve access to her peace. One rainy evening, Ego returned, wet, tired, and looking more desperate than ever. I beg, Adaeze. I no get food. I no get house. Just help me small. I go change, I swear. Adaeze looked at her for a long time. The old her would have folded. But not anymore. I will pay for a month in a women's shelter, she said. They help with jobs too. But that's all I can do. Ego's mouth dropped. Shelter. Me. You said you wanted change. This is your first step. Ego stormed off. Adaeze didn't chase her. She had done her part. Months passed, and Adaeze's business grew stronger. She expanded her product line, employed more staff, and even began mentoring blind women in Lagos. Dr. Adrian remained a close part of her life. Though their bond deepened, he never pushed for more, letting Adaeze set her pace. One evening, as they closed the shop, he asked, "If you could go back and undo your blindness, would you?" Adaeze smiled. "No. Because in the dark, I found my light." And for the first time in a long while, she meant it. Adaeze sat in her office one quiet afternoon, reviewing her business plan and accounts. There was no more panic, no more wondering if it was all a dream. Every step she had taken since regaining her sight was rooted in wisdom, the kind that had come from struggle, from being broken, and then being remade. She had finally understood the meaning of balance. Work, life, family, none of them could define her anymore. She had chosen to define herself. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Dr. Adrian. "Can we meet? There's something I want to discuss." She replied, "Of course. I'll close up in 30 minutes. When Adaeze arrived at the cafe, Dr. Adrian was already there, seated at a corner booth. His face was serious, something she rarely saw. "What's going on?" she asked as she sat down. He cleared his throat. "I've been approached by an international organization that supports businesses like yours. They want to fund a community outreach program, training blind women in various skills. They're impressed by your progress, Adaeze." She blinked, surprised. "That sounds amazing. But, why me?" "Because you're proof that overcoming adversity doesn't just change one person. It changes everyone you touch." Adaeze's heart swelled. "I'd be honored to help. But I don't know where to begin." Dr. Adrian smiled. "That's why I'm here. We can work on this together. You don't have to do it alone." As the weeks passed, Adaeze worked with Dr. Adrian and the organization to lay the groundwork for the new program. They created a curriculum, set up workshops, and began reaching out to the community. The program was called Vision for Change, and it quickly became a beacon of hope for blind women who had been overlooked, abandoned, or exploited. Adaeze felt fulfilled in a way she hadn't expected. This wasn't just a business venture, it was a mission. And with Dr. Adrian by her side, they had a powerful team of volunteers, social workers, and even local businesses supporting them. But as the program grew, so did the challenges. Adaeze knew there would be setbacks, but she was no longer afraid of them. She had learned that true success came not from avoiding difficulties but from facing them with determination. One sunny afternoon, Mom Nkechi arrived at the spa unannounced. She stood in the doorway, hesitant, as if the weight of her actions had caught up to her. Adaeze noticed her from across the room. She wasn't surprised but still felt a pang of emotion. Mom Nkechi cleared her throat. "Adaeze, I know you don't want to see me, but I want to apologize for everything." Adaeze's hands trembled as she put down the book she was reading. She stood up slowly, meeting her mother's eyes. "I've never asked for forgiveness," Mom Nkechi continued. "But I see now that I failed you in ways I can't undo." Adaeze took a deep breath, swallowing the anger that had once consumed her. "I've learned to forgive you, Mama. I've learned to forgive myself too." Mom Nkechi's eyes watered. "I'm sorry for the pain I caused you." Adaeze nodded. "We can't change the past, but I'm willing to start fresh. Just let me live the way I need to." The next few days were tense as Adaeze adjusted to the idea of having her mother in her life again. Mom Nkechi was trying, slowly, carefully, to be a part of Adaeze's world, but it wasn't easy for either of them. Ego, however, hadn't changed. She continued to keep her distance, her pride stopping her from acknowledging Adaeze's success. She watched from the sidelines, still bitter. One evening, As Adaeze was closing up the spa, Dr. Adrian walked in. He always seemed to know when she needed him. "I'm proud of you," he said simply. Adaeze smiled softly. "It's not about the business anymore. It's about healing, about giving back." "You've come a long way," he added, his eyes reflecting admiration. Adaeze paused, considering his words. "You helped me see that it's not just about being whole. It's about becoming whole. Every day." Ego, however, was caught in her own battles. She had started selling makeup and skin products from a small shop, but her lack of a strong foundation meant she was struggling. And her jealousy toward Adaeze only grew stronger as she watched her sister thrive. Late one night, she found herself calling Dr. Adrian again. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "I need help. Can you give me a loan for my business?" Dr. Adrian sighed deeply. "I'm sorry, Ego. I can't do that. You need to build your own path, just like Adaeze did. Help is one thing, but you have to show you're willing to work for it." The silence on the other end of the line spoke volumes. Ego hung up without a word, the sting of rejection sinking deep into her heart. Despite Adaeze's growing success and new initiatives, there was still danger looming. One afternoon, she received a call from a lawyer's office. "We've been informed that your business is under scrutiny by a few local authorities. They are questioning whether your business license is valid," the lawyer informed her. Adaeze's stomach dropped. She hadn't expected this kind of obstacle. "What should I do?" "We need to gather all your documents and ensure everything is in order. I'll help you get through this." As the days went by, Adaeze felt the pressure mounting, but she refused to back down. She had fought too hard to let something like this stop her now. With Dr. Adrian's support, Adaeze managed to clear up the legal issues quickly. It turned out to be a misunderstanding, but the whole ordeal left her shaken. Sitting down with Dr. Adrian, she said, "It's always something new, isn't it?" He smiled softly. "But you've learned to handle it. You've learned to stand your ground." "I used to be afraid of the world," she admitted. "But now, it feels like I'm just one step ahead." As the weeks passed, Mama Nkechi began to shift in her own small ways. She visited the spa every now and then, helping out when needed, though she was careful not to impose. Adaeze saw her mother's effort and appreciated it, though she knew trust would take time to rebuild. One afternoon, Mama Nkechi spoke quietly, almost to herself. "I used to think you were a burden, Adaeze. I thought your blindness was the worst thing that could happen. But now, I see. You were always meant for more than I could ever give you." Adaeze smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known before. "I forgive you, Mama. And I'm glad you're here." Adaeze stood outside her spa, looking at the city skyline. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over everything. Dr. Adrian stood beside her. "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking about everything we've built," she said, her eyes gleaming. "How far I've come, how far we've all come. You've made a difference, Adaeze. And you're just getting started." She nodded, her heart full of gratitude. "I've learned that no matter how broken you feel, you can always rebuild. It just takes time." And for the first time in years, Adaeze felt completely whole. It was a quiet Friday evening when Dr. Adrian invited Adaeze out to dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. The sky was painted with streaks of gold and purple, and soft music played in the background. Adaeze, in a soft emerald gown, looked radiant. Her glow wasn't just from her restored sight or her success, it came from peace. They talked over grilled seafood and palm wine, laughing about their first meeting, their work, their shared dreams. As dessert arrived, Dr. Adrian reached into his jacket pocket and slid a small velvet box across the table. "I've walked with you through pain, through healing, through growth," he said gently. "Now, I want to walk with you through forever. Will you marry me, Adaeze?" Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded, speechless. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Yes, Adrian." By the next week, the engagement news had reached their circle. Clients congratulated Adaeze, and her team at the spa celebrated with a small party. Joy hung thick in the air. But not everyone shared in the joy. Ego, who had been evicted with Mom Nkechi from their one-bedroom apartment due to unpaid rent, heard about it from a neighbor. She stared blankly at the wall. She's getting married to Dr. Adrian. Mom Nkechi sighed, tired and bitter. We should go to her. Maybe she'll let us stay. At least until we find another place. But Ego hesitated. Pride clashed with desperation. Eventually, Survivor won. One Saturday morning, just days after the engagement party, there was a knock at Adaeze's door. She opened it slowly and froze. Standing there with travel bags and worn-out slippers were Mom Nkechi and Ego. Their faces were pale, defeated, and tear-stained. Adaeze stepped outside, closing the door gently behind her. Mama. Ego. Mom Nkechi dropped to her knees. We've been sent out. We have nowhere to go. Please, forgive us. Let us stay, even if just for a while. Adaeze looked at Ego, who remained quiet, avoiding eye contact. I didn't come here to beg, Ego muttered. We just need help. Adaeze's heart pounded. The girl who once cowered under their cruelty wanted to scream. But the woman she had become stood still, thinking. Is this about forgiveness or shelter? She asked quietly. Neither of them answered. She took a breath. You're only here because life has humbled you, not because you've truly changed. Mom Nkechi began to cry louder. Adaeze, we are still your family. Don't turn us away. You turn me away every time I refuse to beg for you, she whispered. Every slap, every insult. I remember everything. But still, something inside her hesitated. Later that evening, Adaeze sat with Dr. Adrian, torn. I don't hate them anymore, she said. But I don't trust their intentions. Dr. Adrian took her hand. You're not obligated to carry people who once broke you, especially if they haven't rebuilt themselves. Adaeze nodded slowly. I helped them, but not by letting them live with me. She made her decision. The next day, she called a real estate agent and paid the first 2 months' rent for a small apartment. She bought them basic groceries and handed the keys to Mom Nkechi. I've helped you as a stranger would, she said. But you no longer have the right to be in my life. Mom Nkechi sobbed openly, holding the keys like gold. Ego remained silent, her eyes unreadable. You've changed, she muttered to Adaeze. Adaeze nodded. Yes. Pain changed me. But I chose to become better, not bitter. She turned away, closing the door without looking back. Inside, Dr. Adrian was waiting. He opened his arms, and Adaeze walked into his embrace. You did the right thing, he whispered. But it still hurt. With the distractions behind her, Adaeze focused on preparing for her wedding. She chose a soft ivory dress with lace sleeves and a train long enough to make her feel like royalty. Her bridal team consisted of women from her empowerment program. Each of them had once known rejection, but now they stood strong beside her. The wedding was set for the following month at a garden venue. Dr. Adrian's family adored her, and Adaeze had found new mothers, sisters, and aunties in their warm embrace. She had built a life from the ashes. Now, she was about to start a new chapter, with love. The sun shone brightly on the day of the wedding. Guests filled the flower-lined garden, dressed in colorful attires. The air smelled of fresh roses and incense. As music played, Adaeze walked down the aisle slowly, arm in arm with one of the older women from her training center, her chosen mother for the day. Dr. Adrian waited at the altar, eyes filled with tears. I never imagined this moment, Adaeze whispered when they met. Not in my wildest dreams. He smiled. It's just the beginning. They exchanged vows, rings, and a promise to never let go. A week after the wedding, Adaeze visited her mother and sister at their new apartment. It was small, but clean. She came not to check up, but to offer closure. You don't owe me anything, she said calmly. And I don't owe you either. But I wish you peace. Mom Nkechi nodded silently, tears in her eyes. Ego turned her face away, the words "thank you" stuck in her throat. Adaeze left with her head high and her heart light. Months passed, and Adaeze flourished. Her business expanded to Abuja and Enugu. Her empowerment program received national recognition. And her marriage to Dr. Adrian grew stronger every day. One afternoon, she sat on her balcony, a cup of tea in her hand and sunlight warming her face. She was no longer the blind girl they mocked, the beggar they forced, or the victim they used. She was Adaeze, the survivor, the leader, the healer. And as she listened to the breeze whisper through the trees, she smiled. She had seen the darkness, and chosen the light.
There are a lot of lessons to be learned from this story. I would love to hear your opinion in comment section. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, share, and press the red button to subscribe to my channel. Bye.